be true love, because both these children have spent all night outside their granny's ICU room, in the ICU ward. So it's really great. Thank you. Before we are going to read out just 2 letters among so many we have received, and 3 very old friends of Papa are also going to say a few words. But before that, my cousin suggested to say something about Papa's life very quickly. And Sameer Laddu has been really kind. He has been scouring 2 steel patties for photographs. So we made a bit of film collage. So I'll be very quick, because we must all have a very good high tea. My father loved food, and we've tried to select foods which he loved. He loved feeding people, he loved eating himself. So I want to begin with the fact that he always gave us such unexpected surprises. He was supposed to pass away in Delhi, and Indigo Airlines had agreed to remove 9 seats to carry his stretcher, but of course then he popped off in Mysore. Similarly, when he was being born, he was conceived in Kohat, which is in the northwest frontier, and my grandfather drove with my granny with just 2 pistols and an open air car, and they were going to drive from there right up to Calcutta. But of course, he gave them the unexpected surprise and decided to be born in Delhi at Lady Harding Hospital, where his 2 aunts were principal and vice principal. His early days, of course, were in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. I deliberately share this with you because his father was a chief medical officer, so he treated all kinds of people. He treated the British, he treated a Chinese general, he took his appendix out, and that became a national inquiry. Why are Chinese admirals roaming in these waters? He treated the tribals, the Jaravas, the Onges, and of course Indians, including many freedom fighters. And according to him, that's where he really learned smoking from a Burmese Mali at a very early age, Burmese cheroot. Then of course my grandfather was posted in Southeast Asia. He was sent to Singapore, and he became a prisoner of war under the Japanese. So his schooling was in Colonel Brown School, Dehradun, and then the family shifted to Mussoorie, Weinberg Allen. And according to him, he really grew up fast that time, because his father was known to be prisoner of war and probably not alive. And according to him, he used to drop all his siblings to school in a little cycle, and he did all the groceries, he learned budgeting. And he also says he came to know who were friends and who were not friends, because many people were very wary who is going to be saddled with 4 children and a widow. Subsequently, there was much happier times when my grandfather came back alive and hale and hearty, and he joined the prestigious Doon School, Doon Valley, where not only did he was an A-grade student in academics, winning prizes and everything. He remembered very fondly the art, the painting, the carpentry, the treks in the Himalayas. And subsequently, he even won a national award. And very judiciously, he used the award to buy land at a throwaway price in Mehrauli from Mr. Harpool, who was a Jat. And later on, he sold that land, and it partly funded his first X-ray film, his X-ray machine. So, as he always said, very useful to win national awards. Much earlier, when my grandfather was given an appointment in police, and he was in Calcutta, he was given in police quarters, a lovely bungalow just overlooking the river. The famine had a very big impression on him in 1943. Because we were never allowed at home to say that food was bad or refuse to eat it. But of course my naughty brother found a loophole. He would often say it's not cooked well, and he would return to the kitchen. But coming to the famine, he remembered how he would go with the orderly or gardener to the deep end of the garden near the river, and they would float with a long pole the bodies to flow more down, because they would get stuck. And according to him, he repeated this action when the floods came in 1978 in Hindon River at Baghe Abras, because again there were dead 40s and they had to be let off. But of course, floods are also memorable because he waded in chest deep water to treat his patients. It's also in 1948 had a big effect because he was always very cautionary and wary of crowds, very protective of us. And again, according to him, Calcutta Medical College was a big crowd because the stream of patients and the churn of patients he saw, he said was always helped him all through his life. But he was also a grade student there. He won the gold medal, and also he won at a very early age the Duke of Edinburgh Award, which he said apart from his technical knowledge, he was given because when they were made to see a patient, he requested that could he shift the patient to near the window because he needed light. So he said common sense always paid off. Subsequently, he did his residency in Safdarjung Hospital, very happily cycling in his parachute cycle from 3 Racecourse Road, which he still hangs in Mysore, to Safdarjung. His daughter also did her internship many years later there. He then, of course, went to the hallowed grounds of Royal College of Surgeons. He got his fellowship, but he had to wait for it as he was underage, and he put that time to good use because he met my mother in the neighboring College of Art, and although they did not have any idea about their background, they decided to elope. They could not get married in London because Mama was 16 and that was underage. They were very smart not to go to Gretna Green because they had a feeling that the family would catch up with them there, both sides of the family. Subsequently, he had a very nice stint in Hammersmith Hospital under Dr. Charles, and who remained his guru for so many years and who only passed away last year. He then came to Irvine Hospital, and then of course he was a founder member of the Association of Indian Surgeons, much later in Sevagam, Rural Surgeons of India. But then he had this great sea change. He left Irvine Hospital, he left a government job, and he decided to become the only surgeon between the river Jamna and river Hindon, and he would occasionally see cases in Dr. Sen's nursing home in Delhi. So it is very difficult to imagine the only surgeon between the river Jamna and Hindon, and how many emergency cases, how many lives he must have treated and saved. And actually he loved this rural areas. He picked up the language, the lingo, and he was actually known as Hokke Wale Doctor. And this came into very great use because recently my younger son Hamesha was trying to take some document, and they couldn't place him. He did not know his jati. Then suddenly, according to him, a very portly man said कि वो हुक्का पीने वाले डॉक्टर साहब तो नहीं हैं जो अर्थला में बैठते हैं. But of course Papa was very upset कि मेरी मूछ नहीं याद रखे, सिर्फ हुक्का याद रखा. But as I was saying, how he picked up the social nuances, I remember he once explained to me about a hookah, how it is given to different social classes and the intimacy you have with the person you are offering it to. There are very clear demarcations. And of course, we all know that this great Baghe Abras, this farmland which he created, both Mama and Papa with their own hands, it was very swampy, banjar land, and they reclaimed it. But he had a lot of love for this spot because according to him, Hindon River, as a schoolboy, he caught a 60-pounder from there. So every day he would stop here in Baghe Abras and then carry on to his clinic in Ghaziabad. And then so he started operating a jeep service. Even still people tell me how many children got educated because he would drop them to school. And Navyug market mein unhone jo khola clinic, there were a lot of other doctors, very skilled and qualified, but slowly they went back to the city, except for Dr. Pratap Narayan, the eye surgeon from Vienna, and Papa. And later on, which it still stands, I believe he built a chhatri, and he would have all the Hindi papers where people would come to read. People still regret when he shifted back to the farm that samachar patr padhne ko ab nahi milta hai. Farm of course was this, that we wanted to shift him because we thought that, you know, he's getting old, he'll catch infection. And but before that there was this really important period where he did all these Krishi Darshan shows and how he was treating patients who had injured their fingers and hands, generally children. So he was actually, you know, a plastic surgeon specializing with his operating optical microscope on hand surgery. अभी तक फोन आते हैं, बहुत तकलीफ होती है. अभी लास्ट एक गंगानगर से आया कि बच्चे का हाथ कट गया है, डॉक्टर साहब बचा देंगे. तो I had to explain that you'll have to go somewhere else. A lot of people wonder how he passed away. So actually, you know, after the Holi, he had these really great influx of patients coming, and I believe from all over Uttarakhand, Garhwal, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Orissa, even Assam. I remember he was treating a case of filariasis, and हमने उनको shift किया था farm पे. उनकी fees भी बढ़ाई थी कि patients will become less, but they remain the same because they said आपके पिताजी को देख के और farm की हवा खा के हम आधा ठीक हो जाते हैं दवाई लेने से पहले. So the day when he collapsed, you know, the day before he collapsed, I believe he was having lunch. He's diabetic at 3:30, 4 o'clock. And then Balinaji, his driver, is saying कि सब मरीज उनको घेर लेते थे. So after that, his younger grandson carried him like a sack of potatoes, as he put it, to Mulchand. And Mulchand, yes, definitely the emergency ICU saved his life. And then he had this thing that Delhi is too polluted, I will go to Mysore, and the oxygen will heal up his lungs and he'll be fine again. So, and then over there he was fine. He had these fluctuations of sodium, which he would very moodily put कि मैं petrol भराने जा रहा हूँ अपने body में. So he would go and have his sodium thing and come back, and then he would have all his friends visiting him and people bringing sardines, which he loved, from the Arabian Sea, food. And then suddenly he would again become very serious. So the only thing I can say, that he loved South India also. He made a lot of very dear friends apart from his childhood friends there. And the only consolation we all have कि उनके आखिरी दिन at least air conditioned fancy hospital में गुजरे, because आपको पता है यूपी में तो बिजली नाम के लिए होता है. So at least he had clean bed sheets, he had lovely soft spoken nurses, gentle doctors, and there was no makhi, machhar and dhool. That's the only consolation we have. I want to really thank all my colleagues at South Delhi Polytechnic for Women, जो 7 बजे तक लगे रहे इस काम में, इतने sad phase of my life. And also for my brother who had just arrived with jet lag. He searched all the paties for photographs, and my grandchildren, and also cousins with whom I spoke after nearly 30 years and contributed childhood photos of Papa. But I was going through these pictures and I remembered we forgot his music, his tremendous collection of music, and his beloved violin, which he only stopped after getting cervical spondylitis. This is him as a child, probably in Andaman Islands. This is the family, my grandmother who was from the Tagore family, and my dear grandfather. Only my father's youngest brother is missing. Probably he was taking the photograph. Indrajit Kaka, Bibi Pishi. My grandfather, of course, had a very illustrious career in the army, and I think many of the army rules and adage stuck with him all his life. He was very particular about time, always telling me never make anyone wait for you. And Bahadur will be a witness. Right till the end, he would stitch his own button. He wanted to polish his shoes, unless quietly his grandchildren would steal it away and do it themselves. He loved washing his own clothes, and if you grumbled, he would say, you should also do it. And I think his love for shooting, shikar, was, during the army postings. Both his parents had a tremendous influence. Dida gave him his artistic side, music, gardening, and of course, I think my grandfather influenced him in his professional work. These are the early days where, my grandfather treated all kinds of people, and I say this because, again, Papa ended up treating all kinds of people, famous, very big, rich zamindars, but also poor farm laborers, dakus, and policemen. And in fact, once it was a very delicate situation, he said, because he had operated on both of them, and the nurse very tactlessly had put them on neighboring beds. Fortunately, he saw it in time, and before the attendants and officials arrived, and they were shifted to different floors. He loved animals very much, and maybe that's why he loved the farm. He even kept a camel there once, Baglu Khan. He loved trekking, and whenever I used to bring my marathon medal, he used to share this with me. He was really interested in his medical studies, and they were always vivid and remained with him. He very fondly kept his books. This is a very interesting person, his Nana ji, Dr. H. Chatterjee, who did his medicine in 1899. And again, I think he was very much like my father, because he caught infection from his patients and died a very early death. And he also used to work both in Shillong and Kolkata, treating a range of patients, from the very rich to the very poor, from very urban to the very rural. And I think he resembled him a lot. This is Didi Ma, the famous Monisha Tagore, and he actually never stayed in a hostel when he was studying medicine in Kolkata. He stayed in this beautiful bungalow which I visited, 2-story, Masjid Bari Street. And I think all the family was very envious, because she was a very formidable person, but Papa was allowed to play cards with him, smoke in front of her, and as she always said, no, everything is excused because he's taking his grandfather's profession. In the riots, I believe she saved the family house by walking on the veranda with a shotgun. We then come, of course, to his adult life. He met my mother, and they had a great chemistry, and there were always great debates, arguments, but lots of love and affection, understanding. This is, I think, the Nainital Lake. And Shona auntie, of course, was also from Royal College of Art, a year or two senior to Mama. So they had great bonding. This is one of my grandfather's bungalow, which the official bungalow to work when he was a civil surgeon there. Again, you will see a similarity, because not only was he the civil surgeon treating the Britishers, the Indians, but also family. And happily, so many of my uncles and aunties, were born in my mother's house, because, they were delivered by my grandfather. He had a very interesting mutual regard relationship with my grandfather. And Badi Khala, who was again a pathologist, one of the first Muslims to get a rank in the Hyderabad University. First time a Muslim girl's photo came in the picture. And again, a very interesting symbiotic relationship, because once I remember, just after the 70 war, my father bought a very tattered, blood-spattered report, and my mother burst out crying, and there was a lot of hugging, embracing, and then it was explained to me and shown that, Badi Khala's pathology in Karachi, the pathology center, she had signed the report. They had gone for a checkup. So, and I always hoped that my father, when he signed, they went back to my Khala, because as you remember, these were very turbulent times. It was not Cold War, it was a very proper, declared war. And this was the only way these two families could connect. But yes, the Shah and Chaudhurys have obviously been healing people beyond borders. Truly, médecins sans frontières. This is, of course, us in our drawing room. We still have this marble table in which Papa said Indrani Rahman danced, and a Russian ambassador fell down drunk. So lots of memories in this room. My mother, of course, was very proud to be a textile designer. In fact, it says that in my birth certificate. And she explored all kinds of textiles all her life. Even in ICU, I cannot forget, half drowsy, she saw something embroidered, and she brushed her hand and said, "Did I do it?" This is, of course, Samir and his lovely family. Papa, of course, loved children anyway. Samir, of course, gave him a lot of happy times because he shared his love for hunting and trekking. Papa had a very artistic side. Unfortunately, the music side we forgot to include. But yes, even in ICU, we were given special permission to let him hear violin music, because that would perk him up and he'd be very cooperating in eating and giving his hand for blood reports. This he did actually only as a 15-year-old schoolboy in Colonel Chatterjee's in front of Colonel Chatterjee's bungalow, Srinagar. This is Dal Lake. This is much later, and Mr. Deshprabhu said it reminded him of Saison. This is the oil painting, the Narcissus story. He continued to love painting. This is him painting with his two grandsons. He would always tell us the importance of drawing. And this is the handiwork of all three of them. But he always told us, even if you're in a foreign country and you don't speak the language, drawing would help you tremendously. This he also carved. This is on wood. He said he wanted to make an elephant, but soon cut gayi. So then he decided to make the one-horned rhino. This is Papa working on white marble, and he wanted to make a cow, but then he again said, "Ke zyada kaat diya," so then I had to make a horse. And just like a precocious child, he did not bother to do the other side. And this reminds me that, you know, he actually built a boat when he was doing a lot of duck shooting to fetch ducks. And he, you know, he had a popular mechanic book just under our amrut tree. Just according to a booklet, he made it, and I think Sameer Hamesha forgot to photograph it. It still lies in Baghe-Abras. It floats in water. This is the last caricature I think he made of a Kodava warrior with mobile phone. We used to always tell him, why don't you do more of caricatures and supply to magazines and books? So he said, don't forget what happened to Bal Thackeray and Hitler. Yes, a tremendous love for photography. In fact, he had a wonderful collection of cameras, and the media teachers at the college always requested him, you must come one day to explain. This is the hookah. There's so many more of them. We can open a shop. This is his very beloved jeep and his very special gun dog Zorba. He was trained so well that जब पापा कुछ शूट करते थे तो वो जाके लाता था. अगर दोस्त कुछ मारते थे, he wouldn't bother to go. He really loved his jeep, picking patients, dropping people. He loved carving because being a surgeon, he loved feeding people also. And as Veenati was saying, he was very good at barbecue as well. This is very interesting. This is Mushfiq Khalu, one of my very dear sisters, real sister of my mother, also married a Bengali. And later on they found out that, you know, he was from the same village, Dhamodham in Sylhet, which is now in Bangladesh. And my mother, of course, joked that when Choti Baji got married, she used to joke, "Ab aapke Bengali bapu aa gaye hain, dhoti pehnenge, dal, maach aur bhat khayenge." And she said, "Dekho, kabhi kisi ka mazak nahi karna chahiye. Dekho mere saath kya hua." Anyway, you can see it on the face. They had tremendous love and bonding. Papa was actually a great do-it-yourself person, and this is one of the last pictures. You know, I think 5th July, when he went to a hardware shop and got things to do. I think he was getting weak, so you know he could not reach the soap dish, so he made this in the bathroom. And then this is the Shah family's cutlery cupboard, and after so many decades, you know, it had come apart, so he showed me how to do chitkani. Kya kar carpenter ko bulaoge, khud karo aur maza aayega. So he actually did this. And this is just when you know, after cremating him, and my elder son Hamara was returning to Mysore, he said, "Arey, I have taken Dadu's bag," and then he saw how neatly he had written his name, calligraphy. And why I say this, because he had this metal thing which, you know, which could carve on metal carver. So whenever my mother would give anything, she had a great fondness to giving people silver. Kisi ki shaadi mein, kisi ki naming ceremony mein. So he would come out and very beautifully, you know, write on it. Gifted by Dr. and Mrs. Chaudhuri. Kabhi Hindi mein. He loved festivals. Holi ka bahut shauk tha unko. This is dear Shiv Sharma ji and Raghunath ji, a very important friend, because he flew when he knew that Papa Mama were in the hospital. He flew down back to Mysore and stayed with them, stayed with us. Tremendous support. This act, as the grandsons call, the public school gang of Dadu. Kuldeep uncle, Ram uncle. As I already mentioned, how he reclaimed this land, swampy land, partly covered by water and banjar, how he made it like an oasis. And it was very hard work. Because even now we think twice before going, but he just loved it. And Hamesha said, "You must show Dadu's tractor," and ko itna pyar tha. It's almost 15 years old and in very good condition. Hamesha thankfully now has learned from Dadu, and he did the harvesting this year and the sowing. According to Hamesha, Dadu saw these as very small, aur ab bade ho gaye hain. Very fond of murgi. Even in ICU he was telling me that he wanted chicken kebab, but Bahadur should come and he will show me the murga before cutting it up. And of course Bhadur came and said, "Sahab, hum to Mysore mein hain, ye to farm pe hai ye murgi." फिर मछली का बहुत शौक था, रात के 2 बजे उनको खिला लो, especially mudo. And this is a love I think Hamesha and me both have got. And he grew fish in layers. He used to bring a lot of farmers to show them how it should be done. Hamesha said, "I was very sad when I took this photograph. The fish were coming out. I think they were looking for Dadu. Why did you send me to photograph this?" Papa itna हंसी मजाक करते थे शिकार का. I can never forget. One relative had come from Pakistan, and she saw this and went back to say कि वो तो कुछ वापस गए कि वो तो कुछ भी नहीं, बहुत ऐयाशी हैं, बेचारी शमीम सारा काम करती हैं, वो तो सिर्फ शिकार खेलते हैं और खाते हैं. So, but he had a very technical side to him. Even photographs were, very carefully marked for farmers. He was an excellent plastic surgeon. He was excellent. This, of course, he had great love for Ganesha. According to him, the first plastic surgery in the world. And our house is overflowing with Ganesha, sleeping, dancing, studying, sitting. And this is his own drawing. This is again his drawing about super specialty hospitals and then his style of working. He was very good also as an orthopedic doctor, living local so that there's no extra expenditure on the patient, and then doing the fixation. Yes, this is a picture at work. That's his very beloved hand microscope for hand surgery. These are actually the stethoscopes belonging to his grandfather, then his father, then his, and I think the last is mine, gifted by Saida. So 4 generations of doctors, and this great harvest machine, which really upset him, because generally बच्चों का ही हाथ कटता था. Parents would go to work in the field, and these children would be playing around at home and cut their hands. And fortunately, eventually, because of his efforts, a law was passed that you cannot sell thresher machines without the safety catch and lock. This is one of the hand surgery conferences, and this is Chotki Pishi. She was also an FRCS surgeon. She became principal of Lady Harding Medical College, a very special relationship with Papa. This used to hang in his clinic and then in front of our house. He thought Hindi is very important in the Hindi belt, so he wrote most of his books in Hindi. This is the farm clinic where, till March he was seeing patients. He really had this passion about bringing healthcare books out for patients, which would help them and save them money. We have them displayed on the side table. Oh, this was the lovely, our very beloved Morris Minor, and he drove it around everywhere. According to him, the engine was slightly high, so it would go in floods. He drove it to a Kanpur conference. And one time, Mama saying that we were traveling, and then they saw the wheel coming and running alongside. It was such a fantastic car, it did not topple. Then they stopped the car, fixed the wheel. And 2 बार I think डाकुओं ने भी रोका इस गाड़ी को. This is Indra ji giving acknowledgement about his efforts to spread health, promotion of health. The last month, as you see, he enjoyed amrak, butterfruit, sardines and other fish from the Arabian Sea. He was so delighted. I'm so happy that happened. And also he met all his favorite good friends who dropped in. Many of them were his school friends. And that's a parachute cycle which he got from his father and which he would ride to Safdarjung Hospital. He brought these chameli ke phool, special Mysore Mallike for my mother. You can see how fit he was. And then he was reading this big fat book on speeches in his last days. He didn't believe in doing things small. Yeah, this is just before we were taking him to the hospital. This is a really lovely, great love story, because my mother we just thought was depressed, but she also had to be admitted. Both were in ICU. When one would get well, the other would also get well. जब एक की तबीयत खराब होती तो दूसरे की भी. Then finally doctor said ये दोनों ही ठीक होके जाएंगे, इनको साथ रखो. They were given special permission to be together or sit in the veranda. And once Mama was going from the ICU to the ward, and Papa was going from the ward back to ICU, and the same bed was given, and their stretchers crossed in the lift, and they were of course very serious, but we have a lovely picture of them holding hands. It was really a cosmic marriage, because you can't plan these things in a big hospital. Tonight I believe there's going to be a beautiful firework meteoric display in the sky. I'm sure my father had a hand in it. Okay, let all those who have come to see me today, let me give them a Diwali dhamaka even before Janmashtami. I have the lovely two letters read out. Rinku will read one. It was very difficult to choose, and also one letter which is, I didn't know he had so many people who loved him from Kashmir. Sari raat nahi soye. Then they wanted the live streaming of this program. And Hamesha said a wonderful thing, कि even if Dadu had not met Nani, come on, Dadu loved their food and loved their company. He would anyway have had Kashmiri friends. So Canada, they wanted live streaming. So I thought we must read out. He was very good at fly fishing, and एक दफा उनका पाँव fracture हो गया था Lider Valley में. I remember Sameer and me were so small. Papa put his foot in the river, उसको numb किया and set it up. And then हम लोग 2 हफ्ते बाद, we were in a very remote place. After 2 weeks, we went to Srinagar Medical College, and they said, "Doctor, you have set it just right. You just need a plaster. You don't need any internal fixation." Just imagine his courage, making it numb and knowing where it has fractured. Could you please come, Rinku?
Well, this is a message from Kiran for both Rehan and Sameer, both. He definitely wanted to be there. I'm so sorry about Bish uncle. He was a special person, and my family and I have special memories for him. Our parents had such an interesting group of friends, and I remember the parties they all had. Mum also talked about him being there for them as a doctor in the middle of the night in an emergency. For me, being picked up by both of you, his pipe and hookah, his VW and Jeep. Seeing him on Krishi Darshan, he was one of the coolest persons I knew. What I will always remember about him is his huge enjoyment of life. We share memories of our childhood and our parents, and those memories will always stay with us. This had been a sad year for both of us. Please give Ashima auntie lots of my love, and of course love to you, Sameer, and all the grandchildren. Always, Kiran. Thank you.
Yeah, Sameer, I think you are supposed to read this letter. Please come. Everybody will understand if you feel emotional.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's made it today. It's a very special day. It's not easy to lose your dad. If I do go a bit emotional, excuse me. I've had very fond memories of my papa in the past years, and a lot of it is to do with hunting, shikar. I learned swimming, cycling, and whenever Papa spoke about a few things, he didn't say a lot to me, but when he did, it made a lot of sense. Like, for example, he said, अगर इस जंगल में शिकार खत्म हो जाएगा, these are his words, अगर इस जंगल में शिकार खत्म हो जाएगा, कहाँ जाएगा? Naturally, you're not going to stay in the same jungle, you're going to move on to another jungle to get your shikar, tita, khargosh, whatever it is. So he said basic things, but it meant a lot. There were times where we had gone hunting, and I must have spent about 35 to 40 rounds. Bang, bang, bang. तो मुझे कहते हैं, ओए साले, शिकार खेलने आया कि बारात में आया है? मारा कुछ नहीं है और खाली आता है. So there are little things where, you know, these made my papa express the way he was. And obviously, whenever he used to scold me, he used to be with love. I never took it as a negative. I took it as a positive, as a learning curve. And thanks to him that I've not obviously followed in his footsteps, unfortunately, but never mind. But I've tried to be like him as much as I can, and so forth. But that's a little token from my side, but I'll just go ahead and read this letter. But thank you once again for everybody turning up today. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Raghunathji, of course, 40-year-old friend of Papa and real friend. Moment he knew they were hospitalized, he flew back from Delhi to Mysore.
यूँ तो हजारों साल से है आदमी का वजूद, लेकिन आंख आज भी तरसती है आदमी के लिए. वो ऐसे व्यक्ति थे जिनको भुलाया नहीं जा सकता. मर्दुल भाषी, सरल स्वभाव, हर एक के साथ उनका मिलना जुलना. जब वो नौकरी छोड़कर, उस जमाने में एक योग्य सर्जन गवर्नमेंट की नौकरी छोड़कर और गांव में जाने की तैयारी करती है. आज हम देखते हैं कि कितनी सरकार कोशिश कर रही है डॉक्टरों को गांव में भेजने की, कोई जाने को तैयार नहीं है. आज से 40-50 साल पहले वो डॉक्टर साहब की हिम्मत थी कि अपनी सरकारी नौकरी छोड़कर एक योग्य डॉक्टर सर्जन गांव में चले गए और अपना एक क्लिनिक खोला गाजियाबाद के अंदर. लेकिन कुछ ही दिनों के अंदर वो इतने लोकप्रिय हो गए कि दूर दूर से लोग उनके पास आने लगे. राजस्थान, हरियाणा, बल्कि पहाड़ों से लोग आते थे और जो एक दफे उनके साथ चला जाता तो वही उनकी पक्के मरीज बन जाते. मुझे अच्छी तरह याद है कि जब वो जाते थे गांव में तो मुझे भी साथ ले जाते थे, क्योंकि मुझे भी शौक था कि कोई ऐसा आदमी जो कि गांव में जाके मेडिकल प्रैक्टिस करे तो मैं शूटिंग करूं और उनको दिखाऊं. वो हुक्का अपने साथ रखते थे. गांव वालों को ये बहुत दिन तक पता ही लगा कि वो बंगाली डॉक्टर हैं. उनकी बोलचाल, उनके बोलचाल का ढंग ऐसा था कि वो लोग और प्रधान उसी इलाके के चौधरी समझते थे. वो इतने लोकप्रिय हो गए, इतने लोकप्रिय हो गए, शायद रहन को नहीं मालूम. उनकी बेटी की शादी में वहां के लोगों ने सब्जी, दूध और फलों का अंबार लगा दिया. सब लोग हैरान थे कि एक बंगाली डॉक्टर इतना मशहूर कैसे हो गया. वो एक महान आत्मा थी, एक व्यक्तित्व था, एक सरलता थी. उनके पिताजी प्रमुख थे मेडिकल कोर के. माता श्री टैगोर खानदान से बिलोंग रखते थे, लेकिन वो मन से सन्यासी थे और कर्म से बैरागी थे. वो कर्म पे विश्वास करते थे और कर्म ही उनका प्रधान मानते थे. मैं कभी मंदिर से लौट के उनके पास जाता तो वो मेरे से मजाक करते थे, भाई कितने पाप दूर करके आए हो. वो धार्मिक आदतों से ऊपर थे. वो महान आत्मा, वो व्यक्तित्व अब भविष्य में दिखने को नहीं मिलेगा. एक लौ थी जो अनंत में समा गई, समिट हो गई. इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं उस महान आत्मा के लिए अपनी श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करता हूँ.
Thank you. And on an emotional note, could Raj uncle also say a few words? And then Tejinder uncle, आप भी अगर आप after Raj uncle.
It's truly a sad day. It's difficult to imagine Bish passing away. He had such a love of life and exuberance about him that it's hard to believe that he's no more with us. I last saw Bish about 3 months ago when actually he had been brought from the ICU unit. Rehan had telephoned that Papa has not been very well. We just brought him home, and so I with my wife went to see him. He was lying on the bed. Ashima had just gone away, and it was amazing that instead of us being very concerned, knowing that it come from the ICU unit, how are you, Bish, etc. He was asking about us, kya haal hai aapka, how are you, where have you been, etc., etc. He didn't at all appear to be, in a way, morose or who had just come from the hospital. Myself and my wife were introduced to him 60 years ago by Shona Ray, a mutual friend, interior designer, and it was a very interesting phase of our life. They had just come from London, we also from Europe, and it was wonderful to see Bish and Ashima coming from such diverse backgrounds, and they had such a great chemistry between them. I mean, she was sort of aristocratic Islamic background and very refined and great, I think a wonderful designer, weaving clothes of that period. And Bish, a sort of a lively personality, surgeon of the Royal College of Art, etc., etc., who started going to the villages. So they were very unusual, almost sometimes it appeared eccentric. How are they sort of got together? As I got to know Bish slowly, he had a background of intellectual Bengali, Brahmo, Samaj. As you know, he did paintings, music, but it was together when we went for holidays together. Particularly I remember to the Khajuraho temples with Samir and Rehan and our children and Arun and Manu, etc. And it was in sort of a friendship was concerned about exploring what was happening in India at the time, its culture and values. And it's hard to imagine Bish in a way sort of very diverse personalities, and as Rehan has brought out that he went to the villages, and I mean somebody coming from Royal College of Surgeons, highly qualified, he may have been the most qualified person come from England at that period, at that time, and to plunge into a sort of very folk village life. I mean, it was amazing to see that. And also Ashima, who had probably not known India at all, never probably, and Hyderabadi culture of her uncles and father, and going to open a polytechnic school, I mean, with children, etc., etc., is unheard of. How they plunged into life into India in a very sort of, I would say, India which appeared to be very different from their backgrounds and their lives, and they made the best of it. I would say a few words also, particularly about Samir and Rehan, how they brought their children together. I mean, and because we often were together, and as mentioned that he loved food and parties, and at the Hindon, I'm sure most of you may have attended his wonderful parties over there. And also I remember in Kurg, where I went with Murad, that was perhaps one of the last time we were very well together, and they had built this house. I think it's amazing to have built a house in Kurg by him. It was architecturally, for me, it was very strange to see what kind of materials and all that. But it's somehow it was part of their personalities, a sort of exuberance, eccentricity, joy, and to sort of looked after. In the evening on a Christmas day, they had the army generals who were all retired, who were there in the coup, come with all their women in very fancy saris and all that, and lots of drink, etc., etc. Bish never touched anything anyway, but still he provided the sort of background so we could all have an extremely wonderful, enjoyable evening. And that's how I discovered he had a sort of background from the army, because all of them remembered his father. So here it was a sort of get together between Bish and Ashima, and that today she's in the hospital. And I mean, I can't imagine Bish without Ashima. I mean, for many of our sometime parties in home, they would sit together, and I think it was sort of chemistry between them was wonderful. And I like to imagine and hope their children, Samir is here, and I sort of fondled him so much. It's nice to see him and their grandchildren. So it's really wonderful to see what they have given to all of us. Lots of joy and happiness. So I like to think of it in a very personal manner. Thank you.
I was introduced to Dr. Sahib by a common friend, Mr. Rawal, about 45 years ago. We suddenly developed a very strong bond between us, even though we met not very often, but during the hunting season we were together every weekend. I would rather not talk about him in the past tense. I feel that though he is no more with us, he is in our heart, mind and soul. So he is still alive for us. Our memories, we see him when we look at Ashima ji, Rehan, Samir and beautiful children. As a friend, I say with great feeling that marrying Ashima ji was the greatest thing he could have ever done. She was a discipline personified. She disciplined not only her family and an erratic friend like myself, but maybe thousands of students she taught at college. He always believed in straightforward approach when he treated his patients and was concerned only about curing. I remember an instance when he had his first bout of pneumonia. He had some work with me, so he came to my office. I told him not to climb the stairs because I'm in Old Delhi and the stairs are almost 72 degrees inclined. So I made him sit at a shop downstairs and I told him that I'll get all my papers done and we'll work it out. When I went down and started talking to him, from our conversation, my friend's driver realized that he was a doctor. He tells him, "Are you a doctor? What kind of a doctor?" He said, "तेरे को क्या प्रॉब्लम है?" तो कहते हैं कि मेरी राइट लेग एम्पुटेट होनी है नेक्स्ट वीक, सो आई डोंट नो व्हाट टू डू. उसने कहता है कितनी बीड़ी रोज पीता है? He said about 4 पैकेट्स. कहता है छोड़ दो. क्या दवाई खाते हो? He said मेरे को घर जाना पड़ेगा, प्रिस्क्रिप्शन मेरे पास नहीं है. तो निकाल लेके आओ. That fellow went home. He took nearly about more than half an hour got the prescription. So he wrote down a prescription for him, which I knew nobody would be able to read in Delhi at least. So when he went to the chemist, they told him, oh, he cannot, I don't know what medicine this is. So I directed that. I said, okay, come sit with me. I went to Ghaziabad, went to the chemist next to his clinic, and he just gave him the medicines right there and then. Then the driver, his name was Pan Singh, he got very apprehensive. He says, मैं तो 200 रुपए की गोली खाता हूँ, वो इन्होंने मेरे को 2 रुपए की गोली लिख के दे दी, मैं कैसे ठीक होऊंगा? I said, okay, just try it. And in about a month's time, this guy comes back to me. He says, मेरा तो सब काम खराब हो गया. इनका क्या हुआ? कहता है मेरी दोनों लातों की veins जो हैं वो फूल गई हैं. So I called up Dr. Sahib. I said, this is what has happened. So Dr. Sahib says, tell him to stop taking medicine. He's okay now. And imagine a person who would have been without a job for, after that, is the 10th year going, and he's still working with the same friend of mine as a driver. We have gathered here to celebrate life and achievements in the honor of Dr. Chaudhuri's ethics, which he adhered to during his entire career with dedication and nobility. We always say being a doctor is a noble profession, not for all. For Dr. Chaudhuri it was, and this is where we stood. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tejinder uncle. And I hope now सब लोग हम लोग खाएंगे. We have tried to put Papa's favorite foods. हमने मच्छी रखा है, and I remembered he said give to at least put rohu. So I think they have sold. We put keema samosa, but he really liked keema dosas of Kurg and mushroom volomo. And sweet dish में हमने ज़रूर एक रसगुल्ला डाला है, because my father always said it's more important for you to learn good Hindi, good Urdu and good Kannada. And Bengali you will learn anyway. Bengali वैसे भी सीख जाओगे, because it is just speaking Hindi with 2 rasagullas in your mouth. Please. So please do join us. Thank you.